Fantasy and sci-fi, two of the largest genres of entertainment on the globe, created by some of the most creative and fascinating minds on the planet. Some of these are simple short stories or one-off movies, but others are expansive, imaginary worlds existing entirely in the minds of its creators, then shared with the world at large. But what are the best? The most imaginative and dense worlds out there for you to find, learn, and immerse yourself in? Let's find out. Imagine you are a member of a small village community. Your technology is limited. You follow Eastern philosophy, and your hierarchy is based completely around strength. You, being the weakest member of your tribe, is at the very bottom of the hierarchy, looked down upon by everyone, seen as a lost cause. Then one day, you receive a vision. You see the end of your existence, of your entire known world, destroyed by powers you can't even comprehend, and you know that you are the only person who can stop this from happening. You must leave your village and venture into the wider world to grow stronger, and hopefully one day be able to stop the force of destruction that is ever looming over you in your mind. This is the story of Cradle, a progression fantasy. Basically, progression fantasy means that each new chapter, or in this case book, is connected, telling a very drawn out story where the characters grow and get stronger throughout the entire series. And as they grow, so does the world they live in. It grows wider, becoming more complex with new elements and challenges that our characters are to overcome. Sadly, unlike all the other picks on this list, there's pretty much only one way to enjoy Cradle, and that is through the novels, a 12-book series. But don't fret, these are the quickest 12 books you'll ever read. You just fly through them. Once the main story gets rolling, you can't help but binge the series. There is some artwork out there, but honestly, I wouldn't even look at the fan art because you're going to get some things spoiled for you. Luckily, Wight's writing is very expressive and imaginative, and you'll envision the series very vividly in your mind. Cradle is exactly what it feels like to read a shonen anime without the visuals, and you will get just as hyped for the fight scenes as you do watching Demon Slayer. I don't know what else I can say that would sell you on Cradle more than that statement. Number 4. Star Trek.
Must be sealed.
Not necessary.
Star Trek is unique in the way that it exists in pretty much every medium that is out there. You've got movies, TV shows, books, animated shows, graphic novels, different timelines, linguistics, pretty much any way you can enjoy ingesting content, Star Trek has got you covered. There's one problem with Trek. It's old. Very old.
Charlie, what's wrong?
TOS, or the original series, started back in the 60s, and it's been producing new content pretty much ever since. While this massive amount of content can seem intimidating, it's fairly easy to break down. You've got TOS, the original series, where it all started. Now for me, TOS was too dated. I made it through about 6 episodes before I had to stop and reevaluate my strategy for getting into Trek. Not that it's bad, but it's just so different from the media I'm used to consuming. It's actually jarring to watch. If you want to start from the beginning, then there it is. Now for the good shit. TNG, the next generation.
Red alert.
I had this ping of fear when I gave up on TOS. Fear that I simply didn't like Star Trek. Not that not liking Star Trek in itself is bad, but sci-fi is my thing, and Star Trek is an integral part of that genre. But then I started TNG, and I was like, damn, it's just night and day compared to TOS. The actors have emotion, and I get the comedy, and I'm invested in the drama and stakes.
What must I do? Nothing really. Tell me how many lights you see. How many?
TNG is peak science fiction. Red Letter Media actually has a great series where Mike and Rich go over their favorite episodes of TNG, and I highly recommend checking that out if you want to get a vibe for the show.
Why, Rich? I didn't hear a single thing you said.
But to sum it up here, just think of anything you could want from sci-fi. The wonders of space, paradoxes, futuristic ethical dilemmas, advanced technology, contact with alien species, anything, and TNG has it. But what if you're more picky? What if you want something specific out of sci-fi? Well, don't worry, Star Trek doesn't just stop at TNG. You want a more gritty, darker take on Star Trek? Bam! Deep Space Nine. You want more ethic-based adventure about being on the fringes of explored space? Bam! Voyager. You want to feel like you're on the first frontier of deep space exploration? Enterprise. You want to learn more about a guy that showed up like 3 times in TOS? There you go. Strange New Worlds. You want dumb action schlock? Here's some J.J. Abrams movies. Are you a nerd? Huh? You like to read, do ya? Bah! There you go. New Frontier. Want to see what happens to your favorite actors when they get old and bitter? Star Trek Picard. You like trash? You a little trash panda? A garbage connoisseur, perhaps? Star Trek Discovery.
This is the power of math, people!
And there's even more than everything I just mentioned. Star Trek has the unique property of being able to fit anyone's tastes in the sci-fi genre. Now, yes, you will get more out of this series if you watch them in order, but that's by no means necessary. It's all out there, just waiting for you.
And to make sure history never forgets, the name. Enterprise. Got out.
Alright, now fuck all that nerd shit. Let's talk about wizards.
Shadow Wizard Buddy Gang. We love casting spells.
I'm talking about Harry Potter. Now this is definitely a personal pick for me, where Star Trek is more serious and adult. For the most part, Harry Potter is just plain fun. It's one of those rare cases where the books and the movies are equal quality, and while I do think the books are more of my thing, I can't deny how dope the movies are. At least the ones about Harry. Once you start bringing up the Holocaust in the wizarding world, you lost me. But as far as original content goes, Harry Potter is incredible. And Harry Potter also has one of the most passionate and active fan bases in existence. There are entire YouTube channels dedicated to Harry Potter lore and fan fiction, and if you want a great example of this, check out Super Carlin Brothers and their Dumbledore's Big Plan series. Another great thing about Harry Potter is it is so easy to get into. There's a boy who's the chosen one and has to defeat an evil dark wizard. You can't get a much more basic premise than that. But despite the premise being super simple, the story is incredible. Harry Potter is one of those series where you feel like you're there. While reading these books, you go to Hogwarts. You grow up with these characters and root for them to succeed. Or root for them to perish if their name is Wormtail. And once you're in this world, you see how much more exists there. Werewolves, mermaids, unicorns, goblins. Fun fact, Harry Potter was written by a goblin. Big ass flying dead horses, completely normal sized spiders, and on rare occasion, even reliable public transportation. Harry Potter is just fun, enjoyable fiction that you can get lost in for a lifetime. And if you didn't read it when you were younger, it's still worth checking out today. Trust me.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so we just covered a family-friendly, light fantasy series. What's next here? Ah, literal hell.
Let the seas boil. Let the stars fall. Though it takes the last drop of my blood.
Come on now, you know I couldn't make an immersive fantasy list without talking about the largest fictional universe there is, Warhammer 40k. Now right off the bat, I'm going to bring up the biggest problem with 40k. Where do you start? To be honest, I don't even know. Just pick something. You like elves? We got elves. What about demons? Check. Assassins? Obviously. City-sized robots? Yeah. Disease-ridden pus soldiers with a sense of honor and duty who specialize in being shot and vomiting? No. Actually, we don't have that. Oh wait! Yes we do. In bulk. 40k is odd in the way that you could spend all your free time reading up on lore for years and still feel like you're new to the setting. There's simply so much out there that it's tough to get invested in. In fact, if you talk to an average 40k fan, they'll warn you not to get into it. Not because the lore is bad or it's not worth getting into, but because it just consumes you. You want to know everything, and it just seems to never end. But in a way, that's a good thing. You never run out. You can read the last Harry Potter book, or finish the last episode of a Star Trek series. But with 40k, there's always more to consume. Slanesh would be proud. Now don't panic. I'm going to give you a crash course at the end of this segment if you want to get into 40k. But before that, let's talk about what 40k is. 40k is a grimdark sci-fi setting. There are two important words in that sentence. Let's start with grimdark. Grimdark means everything sucks. While Star Trek is a hopeful sci-fi about what humanity can achieve through science and progress,
we have eliminated hunger, want, the need for possessions. We've grown out of our infancy.
And Harry Potter is about the good in people's hearts and the true power of love. 40k is about degradation and decay, about a society, a galaxy that has fallen from grace, a golden age that is long over, and what is left is the crumbling remain, filled with inhabitants who worship false gods and murder those who push for reason and compassion. And while that may sound awful, remember, this is fantasy. In 40k, you get to play the villain. No matter what faction you choose, on some level, you are evil and corrupt. Now there are levels to this. Not every faction is quite as evil as others. For instance, the literal demons from hell, who enjoy slaughtering anyone they can find, are like mildly evil. Whereas the Imperium of Man boasts horrors that are so vile they border on hysteria. Then you got these guys. The second word we have to focus on is setting. 40k is not a story, it is a setting, a background for those stories to happen on top of. The overall setting of 40k moves at a glacial pace. It is so stories can be told within this vast universe without progressing the timeline too much. With all these factions and characters, it's important to slow down the march of time and give them space to breathe and develop. You also see a lot of jumping around in time if you read the 40k books. The books are usually centered around one of the major events, and that's how you know who the major players are and have a general sense of what's going on in the galaxy at that point in time. I'd say there are three major ways to get involved in 40k. The first being my preferred method, which is lore. My favorite method of consuming 40k lore is the novels. There are literally hundreds out there, but don't worry, they're not all connected. Pick a faction or a character you're interested in, and I guarantee there's a few novels about them. And with novels, you get a more story-focused way of viewing 40k, which I enjoy. But if you just want to know things, check out Lexicanum or 40k YouTubers, and you'll get your fix that way. The second way to enjoy 40k is through the tabletop. This is really the main way people enjoy the setting. Building, painting, and playing with models is an absolutely huge part of the 40k community. There are tons and tons of models for each faction that you can build your army with, and lots of rule books filled with unique artwork and lore. If this sounds appealing to you, I highly recommend going to your local game shop and talking to the people there to see if they host any 40k tournaments. If they do, go one weekend, watch a match or two, see if it piques your interest. Now, building an army is outrageously expensive, but luckily Games Workshop does offer smaller scale battles that you can buy all in one box. And then, the final way to enjoy 40k for now is through video games. I say the final way for now because hopefully in the near future we'll have some sort of TV show or movie, but as of right now, best visual mediums for 40k are video games. You should probably know a little bit of the lore before buying one, but it's not a requirement. Maybe watch a video or two about the faction that the game is focused around, just to have a base. Now be careful, there's a lot of straight up trash 40k video games out there, but there are three I think are worth your time. Mechanicus is a turn-based RPG with incredible sound design and atmosphere. Mandalore Gaming actually has a great video on this one if you want an in-depth look.
Even in death, I serve beyond desire.
There's Battlefleet Gothic 2, which is about space boats, also known as spaceships. And just know that 40k spaceships are gigantic. I'm talking miles long and can house millions of people. Now imagine a ship of that scale, and then use it as a battery.
You don't have time for it.
losing speed!
Yes!
Need I say more? And the last 40k game I'll recommend to you guys is Darktide. Think of Left 4 Dead in downtown Philly, and it's Black Friday. Interested in learning more? Watch these 3 videos. Easy. So that's 40k. A bit daunting, but once you get into it, you'll see why it's such a long-lasting franchise and beloved by so many people. Alright, number 1. Here we go. That's right. Lord of the Rings, or less specifically, Middle-earth. Tolkien's masterpiece. And I already know, everyone just groaned, "Oh, I already watched those movies. I know everything already. Broken toe." Big ring, 2-piece table, I got it. But no, you don't. The world of Middle-earth is so much larger than just the movies. And I'm not even just talking about the books. But speaking of the holy text, let's start there. You probably have the best 5-book run ever. The Silmarillion, an immensely dense religious-type historical text about the creation of Middle-earth that spans thousands of years in both the past and future. The Hobbit, the best light adventure story ever written. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, the pinnacle of high fantasy. Filled with the most beautiful prose you will ever read, while still being an engaging and emotional story that you take through Middle-earth with the Fellowship. Frodo, Sam, Aragorn, Gandalf, and Gollum, these are some of the most compelling and fleshed out characters ever written. And the stories don't end there. While Lord of the Rings is a finished and complete tale, there is more out there if you wish to go looking. Unfinished Tales, Children of Hurin, Beren and Luthien, The Fall of Gondolin, The Fall of Numenor, Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra.
With fist open. Sugat! His eyes uncovered!
And the History of Middle-earth series. All of these filled with lore and history to keep you reading for years after finishing the main series. But you don't have to keep reading like a nerd. You can play video games like a nerd. There are so many games based on this franchise. My personal favorite is Shadow of War for the Nemesis system. But whatever your preferred genre of game, Lord of the Rings has got you covered. But let's say you don't want to play video games. You want to interact with your fellow Urkai in person. You've got the One Ring tabletop game, you've got model-based RPG campaigns just like 40k, and there's also the card game for those collectors out there. But no, still not good enough. You want to touch grass, as they say. Get out there and flex your mud wizard cosplay. Congratulations, you've now entered the world of LARP. Lord of the Rings has some of the best and most active LARPing groups out there. Now, you might have to travel for some of these events, but that's part of the fun. Building your cosplay, showing it off at conventions, and then going to battle while wearing it is a thrilling experience. You really can't go wrong with Middle-earth. Whatever your interests are, it's got something to suit you. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Now obviously there are more fantasy and sci-fi worlds worth getting acquainted with, and I'd love to hear which ones are your favorites. Leave a threatening letter in my mailbox to let me know. See you next time, and thank you for watching.
Shadow Wizard Money Gang. We love casting